your #1 news team covering the North. The Bahamas Tonight, Northern Edition.
Welcome back. Many local heroes and heroines have emerged following the storm. They are everyday Bahamians who put themselves at risk to help others, or those who extended a helping hand when others needed it most. Tonight, Italia Hall introduces us to one of them, well-known Customs Officer Marsha Stubbs.
Marsha Stubbs has been living in the Grasmere community since 1995. Her home is located on a hill, and during Hurricane Dorian, a neighbor tried to convince Marsha Stubbs and her husband to leave their home because of fear of flooding. She says she struggled with the idea of relocating because she has a challenge with her legs.
But when I thought about it, I was like, I can't climb up with no bus to go in water. More flooding now. I know they told me if I needed special needs to go to Christ the King, which was also flooded at that time.
Stubbs says she made the decision to stay at home, and she's happy that she did. She says in the middle of the storm, residents came to her home for shelter, including persons who were seeking shelter at the Grasmere Primary School.
So I just tell them, I say, go in the room, some towels in the room, get the towels, get the sheets, get the tablecloths. I say, put them down. By the time we were finished, we had the blind. We had 4 blind people in here. We had a man that was 90-something years old, a one-legged person, a baby that was 5 days old, some persons who were using insulin and whatever else, because we had 4 nurses accompanying persons here. And when the police and my neighbor did the count, they were coming out of the room and there's like 86, 87. I say 86, 87, what they shh. And then they went through and then the police came back and they say 128 and you and your husband make 130. So there were 130 persons in my 2-bedroom house.
This family, David Mullings and Rolika Andrews, were forced to seek shelter at the Stubbs home with their 5-day-old baby.
And thank God people opened the door for us for coming to their house, and they don't even know us. And they opened their homes to us, and I appreciate that. And it was just a serious experience that something I've never experienced before.
Melinda Rollins and her family of 6 left their home in the Heritage subdivision and checked into the hurricane shelter at the Grasmere Primary School. She says they had to run to higher ground when floodwaters began rushing in, and a police officer guided her and several others to Stubbs' home.
You know, I get emotional. I'm sorry. Because, you know, we've been so grateful. This could have ended up a different way. And you just have to give God thanks for it. And this in itself, it opened my eyes to know that, because at that time, we were helpless. There was absolutely nothing we could have done.
And as for Marsha Stubbs, a well-known customs officer, she says she's just thankful that she was able to save lives.
You know, everything that God does, He does it for the future. My house was supposed to be on par with the houses there. If I was on par with the houses there, I would have been flooded as well. And so I am forever grateful that the architect or the construction person made a mistake in putting this the way that he put it.
Italia Hall, ZNS Network News.
Thanks, Italia. A local pastor is included on the growing list of hurricane victims here in Grand Bahama. A resident of the area called over the bridge. He was dealt a serious blow as he not only lost his house, but his church as well. Jamila Mizik takes a look.
Unlike many other Grand Bahama residents who live over the Casuarina Bridge, Pastor Philip Monroe and his wife Margarita not only lost their home due to Hurricane Dorian's powerful floodwater, but also their place of worship. The Word of Life Ministries leader says prior to Dorian, they secured the building and property knowing they were anticipating storm surge, but the level of destruction caused was unimaginable. The pastor adding that this is the 3rd time as a ministry that they have experienced flooding and devastation.
Our ministry, when we started out, 2004, we had Francis and Jane. We were situated on Queens Highway, in a building directly opposite Supreme Cleaners. And with Francis and Jane, the water came in and destroyed literally everything for the most part, with the exception of the keyboard. And so I guess that keyboard still being there, that was, our way of being reminded that in the midst of tragedy, in the midst of devastation, we still need to give God praise and we need to give God thanks, especially for life.
Now, Pastor Monroe says originally the foundation was going to be lower, but after the suggestion from a resident that they take it up a notch, they went up about 5 feet, but it was still not high enough to withstand flood waters.
We have a 5-foot foundation, we have a 10-foot ceiling inside the fellowship hall, and we can see the watermark at the very top of the ceiling, which means that we had about 15 feet or more of water that actually came into this building.
Now, Pastor Monroe says they were actually considering making the church a hurricane shelter, but he's thankful that did not happen.
It would not have been a good decision looking at what actually occurred after Dorian, because as you know, several churches that were hurricane shelter school, Maurice Moore, Central Church of God, nobody ever envisioned, water traveling into these areas. And so these individuals found themselves having to call for rescue.
He says despite yet another loss, they'll continue trusting God to bring them through.
It's one thing to trust God in the good times, but when things shift and things happen, we have to learn to trust God in the midst of the bad. So the same God that brought us over the hurdles in the previous post-hurricanes, Matthew, Francis, and Jane, is the same God that we expect, to do it again. Everything that you see here, by the way, has been a step of faith, an act of faith, from acquiring the property, from laying the foundation, from being able to put a roof on this building. Everything has been a step and an act of faith. And if God did it before, we expect God to do it again.
Jamila Mizik, ZNS Network News.
Great message, and that's going to do it for us here in the North. On behalf of the entire news team, I'm Megan Shepard. Be sure to stay tuned. The Bahamas Tonight continues.